Okay, happy Spiritual Sunday to you all. And we're trying something new, a happy new cosmic year, 5779, our first Spiritual Sunday of this year. Yay! Okay. We also want to welcome everyone who's watching us on Kabbalah.com and on the Spiritual Sunday Facebook page. And I just want to share with you all, it was great to meet so many of you in the international event. I mean, I could hardly walk anywhere without somebody saying, "Oh, Chaim, I just love Spiritual Sunday. One of my friends told me about it," etc. It's so great. It's a wonderful way to start your week. So thank you all for sharing it, and thank you all for joining us and continuing to tell other people about us. How many of you are brand new? Anyone here for the first time? Yay, all right. Great. The first time this year, right? Okay, great. All right, so while we have people on, let's get started. Remember, this is about changing our consciousness. It's shifting our awareness of life. It's changing the way we look at ourselves and other people, because especially now, these first few weeks of Libra, Cosmic Libra, give us the opportunity to set the pattern for the whole year. In fact, as the Kabbalists say, today being Sunday, in the first 10 days, is giving us the opportunity to decide what every Sunday of the year is going to be like for us. So we're already starting to set that pattern. So let's make sure it's with as much love and unity and peace and harmony as we can muster. Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, you sound much louder out there than they are here right now. Okay. You don't hear them?
Yes.
Okay. Just don't tell me I'm crazy, right? Okay. As long as you can hear them too. All right, so we're going to start with our affirmation. It helps to remind us and to infuse and engrave in our heart and soul the truth. What is the truth and how can we awaken a higher level? So I ask you to join us all together, those of you watching us and those of you here. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. So those of you who are watching, we're going to take a break for a moment. You're welcome to write the comments, greet each other online, and we're going to greet each other here, and we'll be back in just a minute. Let's go. All right, it's great to be back. All our friends are online. Let's get started with the message of the morning, or the evening, or the afternoon, depending on where you are. You know, also while we're thinking about it, I heard from a number of people who were in Hong Kong, in the Far East, you know, the typhoon that's been going on there. We can relate. We're in Florida. So let's just start thinking to send them light to have protection. So far, I've heard good things about the people of the center. And, you know, in general, I think it's a little better than it could have been. So let me start with a joke. So this young 16, 17-year-old boy, he's just getting his license. And he goes to his father, he says, "Dad, I want to start driving a car now." So the father says, "Well, okay, but let's make a deal." He says, "I want you for the next 6 weeks, I want you to study the Bible, go to Bible study classes, and I want you to cut your hair." Okay, so the boy starts going to classes. 6 weeks later, the father calls him into his office. He says, "You know, I'm really proud of you. You've been studying the Bible." He says, "But you still didn't cut your hair. I don't know about driving the car." And the boy looks at him and says, "Well, Dad, I have been studying the Bible. And when you study all the biblical figures and you really start to get in depth, most of them had long hair. So I was thinking, why should I cut my hair if all these biblical figures, right, had long hair?" And the father said, "Well, did you also notice that they walked everywhere they went?" Okay. Okay. Yes. So on that note, let's remind ourselves again, what does the Bible say about our creation? Because it's so important to keep reminding ourselves who we really are, which is the essence of today. The Bible says we're created in the image and likeness of God. Now, what does that mean to us? I mean, if you think about it, those of you who've heard that before, what does it mean outside of Kabbalah, the image and likeness? I mean, who could really grasp what that is? But you and I come to understand here in the center, what does it mean, the image and likeness? It means the same DNA in the Creator is the same DNA in us. Our original, our essence, our soul's DNA is a piece of the light of the Creator. So every person on earth has that inside of them, because we are all created by the Creator as a soul, and then we were filled with the light of the Creator, that piece of itself. It's like the Kabbalist writer, Rav Ashlag, the founder of the center, he says, if you have a mountain and you take an axe and you break a piece of that mountain, the rock that you're holding is the same essence as the mountain. It's just a smaller piece. They say also with the, I forget what the law is called, but there's a law in science that if you go out to the ocean, right, here the Atlantic, but of course I grew up on the Pacific side of things. But if you go into the, thank you, okay. Some of you relate, right? Some of you are on the Pacific side. So if you take a cup of water out of the Atlantic Ocean, it has the same makeup, the same composition as the entire ocean. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm. So then every human being is a microcosm of God. Every one of us. So then what makes us different? Nothing. Now, don't get that wrong. People getting scared. That doesn't mean we're not unique. But what I want us to focus more on is the sameness of the light in our soul. Now, how we use that light is different. I teach Kabbalah. Not all of you teach Kabbalah. Some of you, whatever, you're professionals, business people, your husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, we all do different things with the light, but the light is the same inside every single one of us. Not only that, but how did we start in the heavenly world, or what the Kabbalists call the endless world? How did we start? Were we 7.5 billion separate fragments of the light of the Creator? No. We were one infinite, unified vessel, it's called, soul, container of the light of the Creator. One, unified, same DNA, harmony, love, unity. And that's what we're here in this world to manifest again. If that's how we started, a one infinite vessel filled with the light of the Creator, the DNA of the Creator inside of us, then as we say here, who are we really? Pure and perfect beings of light. Every single one of us, we are pure and perfect beings of light. So we already start with perfection. We have perfection inside of us. The Creator is perfect, can only create a perfect world. So then our true DNA is perfection. Oneness, love, and unity. And that's what we've got to keep in mind. And now we've got to understand, what's your question? If we're perfect, and the world is perfect, how do we get chaos? Anyone here has chaos? Anybody have a little trouble, problems, difficulty? Anything but eternal bliss? Anybody? Yes? Okay. So then how does it happen? How did it happen if we were created perfect that we can see chaos, we can see turmoil in the world? Because the one thing that most people forget, intentionally or otherwise, is along with a piece of itself, what else did the Creator give us? Free will. Now, all of us want free will, but do we understand what the consequence of that means? Right? Some of you have or had teenagers. How many of them want something? Yeah, all of them. Okay, great. Right, but then when they get it, they forgot about the consequences. Right? They forgot what goes on with it. They forgot the responsibility of it. So when we were given free will, what does it mean? First and foremost, it means we cannot, in any way, shape, or form, blame the Creator for any chaos in the world or in our lives. Yes, so stop blaming God for your troubles. Because you and I have free will. That also means then we can't blame anyone else in our life for our chaos. Because it's all about how we make use of our free will. That's what determines our life. So whether there's harmony and order, there's chaos, it's our free will. It's making use of the resource that the Creator gave us to transform the chaos to order, as we want to speak about today. But we need to understand where it comes from. Because if we don't know what the cause of our chaos is, how will you ever get rid of it? If we don't know the cause of our chaos, how can we ever get rid of it? You can't. The moment you're going to put the cause of your chaos on somebody else, you have just used your free will to give them power over your life. The moment that you say God caused some problem in your life or in the world, then the same thing. You've allowed yourself to have lasting chaos, because it's not the Creator's job to take away our chaos, because then that would mean that the Creator sees chaos. And if the Creator is perfect, then the Creator can only see perfection. Our job is to make use of the Creator that's within us, the power of the Creator, to not only perceive perfection, but also to manifest perfection. So then let's start to understand what free will means. It means that we have two personas. Anyone ever watch a movie? Anybody never watched a movie? You ever seen a television show? What do you call the people in the movies? They're actors, right? So while they're acting the character on the movie or in the movie that you're watching, is that the real person? No. It may be similar, like you read some of the interviews. Yes, do you relate to the character you played? Okay, a little bit. But you and I know that there's the person themselves, and then there's the role they play. So every single one of us do that same thing. And what we're here today to understand more about is how we can make them the same instead of having them separate. How do you relate to that? How many of you ever acted in a way that you didn't feel? You ever went to a party, didn't like the person in front of you, the real you kind of saying, oh, I can't stand them. But when they come up to you, oh, hi, how are you? It's so nice to see you. You're so, oh, yes, no or yes? Exactly. We've all done things like that. We can feel one way and act another way. So we realize in many ways we are also actors. We have two personas. We have the real us and we have the sort of fake us. We can go deeper. Kabbalistically, we have the true real us, which is the light of the Creator, the power of the Creator. And then we have the fake us, which is influenced by this thing that in the center, in Kabbalistic terms, we call the opponent, the adversary. Right? That false part that jumps in our head, that gives us the ego, the selfishness, the illusion that we are the power source. So we have inherently then those two personas in this world. Our true nature and our only real nature is the light of the Creator. But in this world, unfortunately, with our free will, we've been able to take on the role, the character of that adversary. The person who's angry and jealous and greedy and egotistical and resentful and guilt and shame. Any of you relate? That's not the real you. And in the classes, we make an effort to keep emphasizing that, like we have our affirmation every week, because we've got to remember, I am not ashamed. I am not guilty. I am not greedy. I am not judgmental. I have given some of my power to the opponent to tempt me and taunt me to play that role, but the real me is the light of the Creator. Love, kindness, compassion, generosity, forgiveness, tolerance, all the good things. That's our real nature. So we're here in this world to bring into greater alignment those two. As the Zohar says, as the Kabbalists write, to make even the opponent, the adversary, be our advocate, be our support, do our bidding as the light of the Creator and not its bidding as the fragmentation from each other and from the light of the Creator. There is a student in one of the centers that I've just spoken with recently, been in Kabbalah maybe 6-8 months now, but had an amazing revelation. Comes to the center and he realizes he's in his 60s, he's never had a lasting relationship. I'm just looking to see who relates. Right? Yeah. This is going on over here, right? And he's wondering why, all his life, why can't he have a lasting relationship? So he comes to the center, he starts to learn. And one day in a meditation, he has a realization, he has a awareness, a revelation of an event happened when he was 6 years old. He was going somewhere with his father, 6 years old. I mean, what is a 6-year-old? Innocent, we'd say, right? He's looking at his father, loves his father. His father's going to take him somewhere, I don't know, baseball game, whatever it may be. And the father gets in the car and thinks, oh, just as a little joke, I'll drive off without my son. So he drives off, 30 seconds, comes back. In those 30 seconds, what does the boy start to feel? Abandoned. His father doesn't love him. He must be unlovable and so hurt that he decided then and there he would never give his heart to anybody. So remember, now, for 60 some odd or 50 some odd years, he forgot that. But he has the influence of it, right? Because that's what he decided. He's unlovable. He's not going to open his heart. He doesn't want to be hurt like that. So he can be in a relationship, but not very long, because he doesn't open his heart. He's not willing to make that commitment because of that 6-year-old that's telling him he's unlovable and he could easily be abandoned. So why even risk it? So fortunately, because as we're learning today, he started to realize, wait a second, is it the real him that's unlovable or that felt unlovable, or was that opponent aspect? The opponent. It was the false part. It wasn't the real him that's unlovable. It's what the opponent put in his head. Oh, your dad, look what happened. Because, I mean, come on, 30 seconds a minute, the father comes back. Why wasn't he able to say, oh, it was just a joke? Because for whatever reason, it made that impression on him, and he held on to that impression. But unfortunately, he forgot it over the years, and so he lived it out until he came to the center, which obviously his soul brought him to come and understand and remember that event, so he could therefore change it, so he wouldn't have to live it anymore. And we can. What allows us to be able to change any form of chaos in our life? Anything. Consciousness and free will and understanding. But the most important thing, look, just what's it been, about 3 minutes and we already forgot? The light, yes. The most important. We are pure and perfect beings. We were created perfect. We have 100% of the Creator inside of us. That's what can allow us to go back to perfection. Because we started with perfection, we never left perfection. When we let the opponent make us believe we don't have perfection, that we are not perfect, then it comes down to, can you and I create perfection? So how many of you have looked at the world, watched the news, and you have people who tell you, oh, look at the world, it will, I don't like the N word, never be peace on earth. We will never get people to get back together. We will never have peace and harmony and unity among the politicians or the religious people or what have you. That's the nastiest word we could use. Never have perfection. We have to remember, and the whole point of the center is reawakening and reminding us we are already perfect. It's just about living into our perfection that Kabbalah is teaching us, how to remember we're perfect and then live into it. So there's no such thing as never. It's only a question of when and how. Will it be the way of mercy, or will it be the way, unfortunately, of a little more pain and suffering? Because those are the only two things that make people change. Either there's a spiritual awakening, or enough difficulty and pain in their life will make them change. One or the other. And again, we all have free will, so who decides which way it's going to go? We do. So let's start waking up right here and now and decide we are going to go the way of mercy. We are going to start working on revealing more of that true nature within us and let our light shine into the world, so the light will take away the chaos. Because we can't. We can't take away the chaos. The light that's inside of us, that we have the capability of expressing, that can remove all the chaos There's nothing that the Creator's light cannot change, because it already created perfection. It can let us see and reveal for ourselves individually and collectively that perfection again. But it's up to us. Don't look to the Creator to do it for you. Don't look to anybody else to do it for you. We have to do it ourselves. But can we support each other? Yes, that's the whole point of the center, is to bring people into unity. Imagine, 2,800 people were in the event in New York. Every religion, every background, every culture, every language you could imagine, and probably some of them you can't even imagine, were there in one unified group, meditating to bring peace and harmony to the world in the first 2 days of the cosmic year, planting the seeds of peace and harmony for everybody on earth. All right? If that's not proof in the pudding of what the Kabbalah is and the center is about, then I don't know what is. Right? 32 years ago when I started, you couldn't say that, because we were a much smaller group and much more all the same. Now, we've got these 2,800 people and millions around the world, everywhere, which I'll tell you a little about later. But I want to get back to, how are we going to do this? How do we achieve this? Anybody here wants perfection? Wow. Anybody wants perfection? Yes. Okay. Oh, I heard you. Sounded like here in Boca. Okay. Right? We all want perfection. Okay. Those of you who weren't willing to scream, all I advise you, encourage you, look at yourself and see where your doubts are. And I guarantee your doubts come from your past history, like this man. What we have falsely accepted upon ourselves. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I can't achieve it. You're right. The I cannot do it. But the light of the Creator that I contain, that the Creator gave me, that I can channel into the world, that can. I use the example in the classes, and I will share it with you also. How do you put out a fire? Heaven forbid there's a fire in a building. How do they put it out? Water. Right? So how does the water get to the fire? Through a hose. How does the water get to the hose? And how does the hose direct the water to the fire? Thank you. Firefighters. I was going to say fire people. Right? Got to be correct, right? Fire people, because there are men and women now. Yes? Firefighters. But the firefighter, the I, doesn't put out the fire. They can turn on the water, hook the hose up, and channel the water to the fire, but the water puts out the fire. We are the same way. We are the light beings that can channel the light that will take away the chaos of the world. So when you and I have a doubt that we cannot overcome an individual problem or the world's problem, let's go back and see, like this 60-year-old man went back to find his 6-year-old that realized he had believed at an early age he was not capable. And let's start reminding ourselves consciousness is everything. And the more we hold the consciousness that we are pure and perfect beings of light, the easier it will be to channel light instead of falling into the trap of that opponent. Because that's where chaos comes from. Chaos is not from the light of the Creator. Chaos happens when we give in to the opponent, and then we block the light, so the light cannot take away the darkness, and then we look around the world and we say, look at so much darkness and chaos, that's just the way it is. Right? And we're never going to be able to get rid of it. No. We can get rid of it, and we will get rid of it, and you and I together are going to make sure we get rid of it. So, now, it just takes light. Where is the light hiding? Inside of us. So I want to introduce, we do it every week, but maybe talk a little on a deeper level about it. We have inside of us what I think is the Kabbalah Center's most powerful secret weapon to remove pain, suffering, and chaos from the world. One is, we know that everybody has what inside of them? Light. 100% light, and we're all 100% light beings. The other thing is, we know what makes up the light of the Creator in this physical world are what we call light force particles. Or the Rav Berg always talked about them as spiritual nanorobots. So you know how today they have these nanorobot things, microscopic things they can put in the body, they can put medicines, they can put cameras, they can do all these things, goes in the body and fixes the body like you see in science fiction movies practically. So if they've already talked about that physically, what about spiritually? Which comes first, the spiritual or the physical? The spiritual. So then, on a spiritual level, there have to be those similar nanorobots, or as we've called them, light force particles. Unfortunately, the world, with the help of the opponent, has created some fragmentation around them because most people know them as Hebrew letters or Aramaic letters. And once you say Hebrew letters, what's the second thought the opponent puts in our head? Religion, it's Jewish, I don't know Hebrew. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're shining light. All we need to do is know how to make use of them to take away our chaos by activating the DNA of the Creator inside of us. Now let's go back and remember, if every single one of us are created by the Creator as a soul, one infinite soul, and filled with the light of the Creator, then we all want the same thing. Infinite bliss, total fulfillment. We all want it. Why don't we see it? Because everybody's trying to find it in their own way. But go back to, if we are one unified soul and the Creator gave us a piece of its light, then we are all not only with one desire for peace and total and absolute fulfillment, but we also have whatever religion, language, culture, background, country you are, we also only have one operating system. We only have one operating system on the soul level. One. Can I say that again? One. One operating system. Doesn't matter, Jew, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, atheist. One operating system. Doesn't matter whether you accept science, medicine, psychology, quantum physics, computer science, whatever it is, one operating system. And that's the secret weapon of the center. Because we know everyone has light in their soul. We know how to make use of these light force particles to activate the light in us and in the other people. But where does it come from? Let's think now. Because the Bible is a code. That's what we believe. It's true and it's a code. So you go back. Adam and Eve, two people that began all of the populace of the world. All 7.5 billion people come from those two people. And just as a quick side note, for those of you that the opponent is talking to and say, what about evolution? Without discussing it, but let's just find a common ground. At some point, even if you follow the theory of evolution, at some point there had to be the first male human being and the first female human being. So you want to call them evolved, we want to call them Adam and Eve, but at that point it's the same starting point. Yes or yes? No free choice in that one. Right? So we go from there. Then all 7.5 billion of us come from that. So those people spoke the language of the soul. When they first evolved or they were first created, whatever light was inside them, whatever vibration, of the light inside them, whatever that vibration was, came out their throat. So the language of all humanity is the soul language of the light force particles. Yes, we need to call that Hebrew so we can relate, but that's what it is. And where do we see also? When did the first religion come along? After Adam and Eve? Almost 2,000 years later. So for 2,000 years, what was the language of all humanity? Hebrew, language of the soul. The language of the soul, the vibration of the soul. How can you see it in the Bible? Read. Go back to the Tower of Babel. You know what Babel means? No, today, what does Babel mean? They're just babbling on, gibberish, right? So how did it start? Go back and read your Bible. Yes, it's a code, but it has truth to it literally also. Read it. It says all the world was one language, one set of words. All the world, every human being on earth, one language, one set of words, one operating system. Unfortunately, because of free will, those people, instead of unifying themselves for good, they unified themselves for bad, selfishness. And the moment they did, the universe is set up, cause and effect. So the moment they wanted to create divisiveness, separate themselves from the light of the Creator, what's the effect that's going to happen? Divisive effect. And in this case, what was the division? Language. All of a sudden, all the languages on earth came into existence. English, French, Greek, Latin, whatever language you want to call. So one, they're all derived from Hebrew, light force particles. But they're divisive. So today we say, well, I don't understand that language, so we can't communicate, etc., etc. But the soul is never disconnected from each other. The soul is always communicating. Our job is to make use of those light force particles to activate the light within us. And as we project it out to other people, what are we activating in them? The light inside them. How are we going to remove the pain and suffering from the world? By shining that light, causing that one language. And the Zohar says very clearly, in the last days, which I believe very specifically is the last 30 or 50 years, that the Kabbalah Center has now reached out to the world. But it says, in the last days, all the world is going to go back to that language. Go back to that operating system. So every one of you who are scanning from your Zohar, doing the 72 names, every one of you who are watching, who are scanning the Zohar, using the 72 names, Ana B'Koach, all those tools, we are uniting ourselves again, but this time for heaven on earth, not heaven in the upper worlds or unity in the upper worlds. We want unity and peace and harmony in this world. So this is what we need to work on. If you want peace, activate the light inside you. Start making use of the 72 names. Start scanning from your Zohar, whichever one, even if it's just the pocket Zohar. Make sure you have the pocket Zohar 1 that just radiates light around you, and then open up. Just scan. Just scan and think to awaken the light inside you. It's technology. So it doesn't take belief. Just don't let yourself block the energy by disbelieving. At least be open. Be open. Start to work with it. You have a very nice story in the Bible. What does it say? Jacob and Esau, his brother. Two brothers. You know anybody that siblings don't get along? Yeah, okay, I guess so. Right? So you have a sibling. Here's Jacob. And these people are on a high level. Even Esau, that they call the negative brother, he was on a very high spiritual level. But he didn't see eye to eye with his brother Jacob. In fact, he didn't see eye to eye to such an extent he wanted to kill him. So what did Jacob do? Jacob used what we call Kabbalistic technology. He started to awaken the light inside of him. He sent it to his brother Esau. When they met, Esau could only hug and kiss his brother. Only hug and kiss his brother. Because the light inside of us, that pure and perfect DNA of the Creator, will cause that spiritual awakening, bring love and unity and peace and harmony to the consciousness of every person, will begin that power of transformation from fragmentation and hatred to love and unity. That's the power we've got. We just have to accept it and then work with it. Because our souls are crying for it. But we have to take the action because it's our free will. It's up to us. Read. There's Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. He was the high priest of idol worship, which means separation from the light of the Creator. Biggest ego, as we could relate, meaning he thought he was the center of the universe, instead of the light being the center of the universe. But the light also awakened in him. So he became so connected to the light that he came to join Moses. And Moses even told him, if you read, says, Jethro, you've made such transformation. Help guide us through the challenges of the 40 years in the desert. Just to understand, you and I and anybody else on earth, there's nothing that we could have done that we cannot transform. No chaos we've created, no situation that we've fallen into that we cannot transform into peace, harmony, love, and blessings. as we will let the light shine. That's the only issue. But what does the opponent do? The opponent makes us look outside and see lack. And if you see a lack out there in a person's business or their health or their relationships, then what's the natural thing the opponent will tell us to do? Go out there and get from other people what you need. Go take from the world what you need. You and I are reminding ourselves constantly here, we are already pure and perfect beings of light. We already have the light. So if there's something missing out there, it's not about getting it from out there. It's about taking the peace inside of us and projecting it out there. Actions of love and kindness and tolerance and forgiveness and generosity and compassion and humility. That will allow the light to be projected out there. Then we will see the bliss. We will see and experience the fulfillment. But that's the whole issue. The opponent in us is making us perceive chaos as eternal. But let me ask you, what's the difference between chaos and a jigsaw puzzle? And that's not a joke. Chaos is when we don't know the solution. We don't have a solution. Then when things are mixed up, it's chaos, because no matter what we'll do, we won't be able to solve the problem. But whether it's a jigsaw puzzle or my favorite, the Rubik's Cube, or any chaos you see in the world, how are we going to solve the problem of all the religious hatred out there, or all the racial hatred out there, or all the political hatred out there, or all the social or financial hatred? How are we going to solve that problem? It's just chaos, Chaim. And what does the opponent tell us? Look back in history. When did you see other than chaos? When? Never. We've always seen chaos, all the way back from Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve didn't get along, right? Their son, one killed the other one, and chaos has just continued since then. But does that mean that we are not pure and perfect? Does that mean that the world wasn't created perfect? Yes or no? Of course, the world was created perfect, so we can get it back to perfection, but we have to work with the solution. That's why it then just becomes an effort, like a challenge, like the jigsaw puzzle. It's a challenge to fill in the blanks and complete it, but it can be done. There is a solution. Jacob and Esau are showing us one way. Jethro is showing us another way. This man, the 60-year-old man I told you about, he's finding a way to remove the chaos that he's had for 50 some odd years by awakening the light in him. Because even in the 6-year-old that felt he was unlovable and would never open his heart, was his heart pure and perfect? Yes. Is he lovable? Yes, but he'd allowed himself for 50 some odd years to believe he wasn't. And therefore he acted on his belief. We also act on our belief. That's why when you don't believe we can have peace and harmony in the world, or you can have complete bliss, go back and ask yourself, based on what? Why? What happened to you when that makes you believe it can't happen? And go back and heal that part of you and remind that part of you that yes, you're already perfect, and it can be, because the Creator can only create perfection. And perfection already exists. We just have to put it back. So we start to make challenges. I have another student in the Far East. Difficult relationship. Started similarly. Now that I'm thinking about it, the same kind of thing. Years back decided that she didn't want to be dependent on a man. She wanted to be independent. So you tell me, what were her relationships like? Except she was in her 20s when she decided that. Now she's come to the realization, yes, that her decision not to be dependent on a man has completely separated her in relationships. And she's had multiple marriages. And now she is working on how to overcome that. So what did she start to do? She starts to send light. She's awakening the light in her. She's sending the light to her ex-husband. And she's starting to see now changes. Unity, a little more working together. Miraculous changes in her husband. She's seeing how awakening the light in him is making him also perceive things differently, to change. So we need to ask today, what is it in our life that we believe we cannot change? and start to make the effort to change that. Because every human being on earth can be changed. There's a story I want to finish with. Didn't happen too long ago. One of the unfortunate incidences of a mass murderer. Some guy went in, killed multiple people, whatever it was. So in court, they of course decided that he was going to spend his life in jail or be executed, I forget which one. But the families of his victims started to walk by him, each one. And each one would look at him, I hate what you did, I hate you, you're a no good person, you're not a human being, blah. You get the picture. One by one walked by him, and he stood there just ice cold, stern-faced, nothing. Just about the last one who walked by him said, yes, it upsets me what you did, that you took one of their loved ones away. But she looked at him and said, but I forgive you. And you know what the murderer did? He started to cry. If a murderer can cry simply on the idea of somebody offering forgiveness, then what do you think the power, if you and I and all of us together and all of those people connected with the center will now start to awaken the light inside of us and start to send it to every human being on earth, then every one of those people, we will awaken their soul, and they will also, together in unity, we can cause every soul to cry that will cause people to take the action of bringing love and kindness and compassion into the world. That you and I will not just remember there was that heavenly unity and love, but we will be able to make happen on this earth in a physical way love and unity and peace and harmony and heaven on earth eternally. God bless. Just before we do our offering, I just share a few stories. We had this event in New York, and I didn't have a chance to put the pictures up because I just received them. But we also had, just to show you how universal this is, mainland China. You know mainland China? They also had a Rosh Hashanah event, the first 2 days of Libra, in order to set the pattern for the world. We had in mainland China, we had in the Philippines, in Manila, we had in Hong Kong, and the one that for me actually was the most surprising, Beirut, Lebanon. We had about 50 people. We have a center there. So the first time I heard of it was in this event. And I met the woman who runs it. And I'll just tell you a quick story that she shared with us. One is, because I've told you before, we have the Zohar class there. But she was telling us that they have 50 people for this new year, the Cosmic New Year event, right? But what they also had happen, and she shared it with everybody who was in the event in New York, and if you watch the streaming, maybe you heard her speak, but she was saying not long ago, a couple months back, they had an all-night study. Now, where the center is in Beirut, Lebanon, is not far from the Capitol building. So unfortunately, what's going on in Beirut. So here's a group, right, having an all-night study. So she's telling us, of course, the police and the whatever they call the secret police coming to investigate, because maybe it's now, some political uprising and plotting against the government or whatever it is. And this woman who leads it is Muslim. Just to understand, it's not still a Jewish thing, right? She's Muslim, happy to be Muslim, but she's also said she knows that Kabbalah is the operating system for every human being on earth. So the police come in, the secret police, whatever they are, comes in and ask, what are you doing here all night? She says, well, we're having a study. Says, what are you studying? About unconditional love, about unity, about oneness, like that, spirituality. He says, not about politics. She says, no. She says, why don't you stay in the class and you can hear for yourself? So he tells her, he says, no, I'm not going to sit in the class, but I'm going to sit outside the door. So he's listening for a couple hours, and then what they wanted to do is they wanted to go outside and take, like flashlights or lights and create a heart, right? Like a heart of light. So this is their plan. So they're reading from the different books we have, et cetera, et cetera. So after these couple hours, when they want to go outside, this guy from the secret police happened to also be the head of the secret police and in charge of the security around this government building, the Capitol. So as they were marching out, he opened the security barrier to let them go right on the Capitol grounds, and they made their heart, and then he told them, he says, I have never, ever opened this security gate, not even for the Prime Minister. That's the power of what we're doing. That's why, yes, that's true. The proof is in the pudding. So when these stories keep repeating, and I keep sharing them with you, because like we do our affirmation every week, between now and tomorrow, it'll be easy to forget. We'll get caught up in the chaos that we're in or the challenges that we're in, and we'll forget that there are people all over the world of all cultures, nationalities, and background using this operating system to achieve transformation in their life. And so this is what we've got to realize. You and I are helping to happen all over the world, and it simply takes, it's already there. We just have to remove the blockages. And how do we do that? Just by sharing, sending the light, telling people, like many of you showed up because someone told you about this. Many of you are watching because people told you. Just share it. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on Instagram. Let social media, that's the way we reach the world today. Just let people know you have Spiritual Sunday, you have a Kabbalah Center. Go to Kabbalah.com, investigate, check things out, see what it is. Because every soul is looking for this. And that's all we need is just more support, more people gathered together in order to make it happen. We're not missing anything. The pieces are here. It's just up to us to put them together. And that's why we started Spiritual Sunday. That's why the center started 100 years ago, to let every human being on earth have access to this. So please go on your Facebook page, just share these videos, put a note on your Instagram or whatever it is, Kabbalah.com. Let people go read for themselves. We're not asking you to coerce anybody, but at least let them know. Because people are looking for this, they just don't know where to find it. So let's make sure that they know where to find it so that we can speed up the process of bringing this peace and harmony to the world. All right? So let's take a moment just to bless our offering. For those of you who are new, it is a free will offering. Yes, we're a charity. We're supported by your donations, but not only for the Boca Center, which, yes, we do need to maintain, but to continue to spread the Zohar around the world and bring these teachings to all the cultures and the nations and the people who have not yet found it. So if you hold your offering in your hand, we'll just take a moment. Those of you who are watching with us, please just meditate with us, and then you can go online and you can make the donation. We just want to inject our love and our blessing, shining the light of our soul, the energy of the Creator that's inside of us. Share it with love and with kindness and compassion, and with the consciousness to bring a spiritual awakening to every human being on earth. To reactivate the DNA of the Creator inside, and to manifest as the vessel was completely unified in the endless world, to bring it in unity and love in this world. We're grateful for all that we have, grateful for the blessings, and with that gratitude, happy to share it, to extend the light to every person on earth. And together we say, Amen. Before we sing our song, what you see in front of you, now you understand hopefully a little deeper. These are the light force particles called Aleph, Chaf, Aleph, and they will awaken the DNA of our soul, meaning the light that's inside of us. So it's another opportunity to get to the depth of our soul, awaken that light. We're going to meditate to bring it out to the world so that everybody's spiritual DNA and true nature will be awakened. So just let them. They just radiate light. Let it be that simple. Don't listen to your opponent. Listen to your heart and soul and the light that's there, that it just radiates light, and all we have to do is channel it. Right? The hose, the fire hose doesn't stop and think, what's the water? Where's it going? And what's happening? It's just letting the water flow through it. That's what we want to do. We want to empower it, and we want to just send it out into the world. So let your eyes make the connection. Aleph, Chaf, Aleph. And then if you'll close your eyes, sit comfortably in the chair, hands on your lap, feet flat on the floor. Begin taking a few deep breaths, breathing in through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment. Exhale through the mouth. Just allow yourself to relax, relaxing into the light of the Creator. Feeling yourself filled with the light. Reminding yourself that you are pure and perfect being of light. Perfection and total bliss and fulfillment exist inside you. Given to you and each person on earth by the Creator. So let's make use of the Aleph, Chaf, Aleph. Let its energy awaken and empower the light of our soul as together we meditate to shine it out to the world. Every person on earth, beaming light directly to their heart and soul. The energy radiating from the light force particles, Aleph, Chaf, Aleph, activating the DNA of the light inside them. Envision every person on earth coming to the awareness of their perfection, all the blessings already inside. And now together we take the actions. Envision those actions of sharing that light. Actions of love and forgiveness and apology and kindness and tolerance. Every human being accepting responsibility for their own life by using the light inside them to shine all around them. And together, let's hold that vision of the awakening of every one of the 7.5 billion people on the planet, awakening to their perfection. See the joy and the happiness that's being awakened. The sense of peace and serenity that comes upon each and every one of us. Together we commit ourselves to take those greater actions of love and kindness, tolerance and compassion towards all human beings. And let's take one more deep breath to anchor this into our heart and soul. And as you exhale, slowly open your eyes.